Have you ever stopped to think that something as natural and healthy looking as fruit could actually be dangerous? Not just any kind of danger, but the kind that builds up quietly in your body and could lead to something as serious as a stroke? I know that sounds hard to believe. After all, fruits are supposed to be good for us. We see them in health ads, in fitness programs, and even on hospital menus. But here's the shocking truth. Some fruits, yes, some very common fruits, can silently increase your risk of stroke, especially when eaten at the wrong time, or if you already have high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney issues, or heart problems. This video is not made to scare you. It's made to inform you, because stroke is one of the leading causes of death and disability worldwide. And the worst part? Many strokes happen while people are asleep, completely unaware that what they ate just hours before might have contributed. In this video, we're going to uncover the top fruits that may raise your stroke risk overnight. You're going to find out why some fruits that seem healthy, fruits you've probably been eating for years, can do more harm than good if eaten carelessly or at the wrong time of day. And trust me, you don't want to miss the fruit at number 1. It's one most people never suspect. And if you're in your 40s, 50s, or above, or if you know someone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or a heart condition, this could be life-saving information. By the end of this video, you'll know which fruits to avoid before bedtime, why they can raise your stroke risk overnight, and healthier fruit options that are safer and better for your body. So, don't just watch a part of this. Stick with me through the end, because your health, and the health of the people you care about, might depend on it. Let's get started. Before we begin talking about the specific fruits that can increase your stroke risk overnight, let's first understand what a stroke actually is, and why it's so serious. A stroke happens when the blood flow to a part of the brain gets blocked or interrupted. Without blood, the brain doesn't get the oxygen and nutrients it needs. And when that happens, brain cells begin to die, within minutes. There are two main types of strokes. The first is called an ischemic stroke. This is the most common type, and it occurs when a blood clot blocks or narrows a blood vessel leading to the brain. Think of it like a clogged pipe, blood can't get through, and the brain starts to shut down. The second type is a hemorrhagic stroke. This one happens when a blood vessel in the brain bursts, causing bleeding in or around the brain. This is usually more dangerous, and can cause sudden death or permanent brain damage. There's also something called a mini-stroke or transient ischemic attack, which happens when the blood flow to the brain is blocked for a short time and then returns to normal. It may only last a few minutes, but it's still a warning sign of a future full-blown stroke. Now, why should you care? Because stroke is one of the top causes of death and long-term disability in the world. It doesn't always give a warning. It can happen suddenly and silently. And here's the part many people don't realize. Many strokes occur during sleep. Yes, you go to bed feeling fine, and then wake up unable to move one side of your body, slurring your speech, or even not waking up at all. What you eat before bed, especially if you're at risk, can play a huge role in triggering that kind of event. Certain foods, especially fruits high in sugar, potassium, or acidic content, can spike your blood pressure, increase blood thickness, or interfere with your medications while you sleep. If you have high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, or kidney problems, you're already at risk. And the wrong food at the wrong time could be what pushes your body too far. That's why it's so important to understand what's happening inside your body. Your heart pumps blood to your brain constantly. Your brain controls everything: movement, speech, memory, breathing. When the blood stops flowing, your brain stops working. And the damage can happen fast. Sometimes, strokes leave people paralyzed, unable to speak, or dependent on others for the rest of their lives. Other times, strokes are fatal. But here's the good news. Many strokes can be prevented. Yes, even if you've already had one, you can lower your risk. And one of the simplest ways to do that is by watching what you eat, especially at night. What you put into your body before going to sleep either helps your system rest and recover, or it stresses it, raises your blood pressure, and disturbs your natural balance. That's why, in the next section, we're going to talk about the specific fruits that you should avoid before bedtime. Because even something as simple and sweet as a banana or mango could be doing more harm than you ever imagined. So now that you understand what a stroke is, how it works, and why it can be so deadly, Let's talk about the fruits that could be putting you at risk, starting with one that's in almost everyone's kitchen. Let's continue. Let's begin with one of the most loved and widely consumed fruits in the world. Mango. In many parts of the world, mango is seen as a symbol of summer, freshness, sweetness, and good health. It's juicy, it's flavorful, and it's often considered the king of fruits. But when it comes to stroke risk, especially when eaten before bedtime, mango can actually be dangerous. Let's talk about why. First, mangoes are extremely high in natural sugar. One large mango contains about 45 to 50 grams of sugar. That's more sugar than you'd find in a can of soda. Now remember what sugar does in the body. It raises your blood glucose levels, and forces your pancreas to release insulin to bring the sugar down. But when sugar levels spike too high, especially at night when the body is winding down, this causes a stress reaction inside your system. Your blood gets thicker. Your blood vessels get tighter. Your blood pressure goes up. And the more often this happens, the higher your stroke risk becomes. Now, imagine someone with diabetes, or someone with pre-hypertension, eating a mango at 10 p.m. They go to sleep thinking they've eaten something healthy. But during the night, their blood sugar is spiking, their insulin is rising, and their heart is working harder than it should be. And if that person is also taking medications like beta blockers, blood thinners, or has weak kidney function, that mango may silently be pushing their system toward a stroke episode. Here's another problem. Mangoes are often consumed in large quantities. People don't stop at a few slices. They eat the whole fruit, or even blend it into smoothies, adding extra sugar or milk. That increases the glycemic load even more, putting more pressure on the body to process all that sugar at once. Now let's talk about timing. Eating mango during the day, especially if you're active, may not cause as much harm. Your body has time to burn that sugar for energy. But eating it at night? When your body is preparing to rest, that sugar stays in your system much longer, causing a dangerous spike that can last for hours. Also, mangoes are rich in carbohydrates, which the body converts into glucose. This can lead to water retention, which raises blood pressure. And remember, high blood pressure is the #1 cause of stroke worldwide. To make things worse, many people love combining mango with other sweet fruits like banana or pineapple, creating a sugar cocktail that overwhelms the body's internal systems, especially if eaten before sleep. So, what's the conclusion here? Mango is not a poison. It's not a bad fruit. But if you're someone who is diabetic, hypertensive, overweight, living with heart or kidney problems, or someone over the age of 40 with a family history of stroke, then mango should be eaten with extreme caution. And never, never at night. If you love mango, the safest time to enjoy it is early in the day, and in small portions. Avoid mixing it with other sweet fruits, avoid adding sugar, and don't consume it more than once a day. Remember, sometimes it's not just what you eat, but when you eat it, and what condition your body is in. Now that we've uncovered the hidden dangers of mango, let's move on to the next fruit. Another one that's just as popular, and just as risky, especially when eaten before bedtime. Up next is banana. The second fruit on our list is one that almost everyone has eaten at some point. It's cheap, easy to carry, soft, and filling. Yes, we're talking about the banana. Bananas are often seen as the perfect snack. They're praised for their potassium, fiber, and vitamin B6. Athletes eat them. Parents feed them to kids. And many people, even those trying to eat healthy, reach for a banana before bedtime, thinking it's a light, safe option. But here's what most people don't know. If you're someone who has high blood pressure, heart problems, or kidney issues, eating bananas, especially at night, might increase your risk of stroke. Let me explain why. First, bananas are very high in potassium. One medium banana contains about 400 to 450 milligrams of potassium. That might be fine for someone healthy. But for people taking medications like ACE inhibitors or diuretics, or for those with weakened kidney function, this can be too much. Why is that dangerous? Because the kidneys are responsible for removing excess potassium from the body. If your kidneys are not working perfectly, that potassium stays in your blood. And high potassium levels can affect the electrical signals in your heart. This can cause irregular heartbeats, known as arrhythmias, which increases the risk of blood clots, high blood pressure, and yes, stroke. Let's go deeper. Bananas also contain natural sugars like fructose and sucrose. Eating them before bed, especially if combined with other sugary foods, can raise your blood sugar levels overnight. If you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, this can cause unstable glucose levels while you sleep. And that places extra pressure on your blood vessels, your heart, and your brain. Now, let's talk about a lesser-known issue. Bananas are also known to release serotonin, a hormone that relaxes the body. Sounds good, right? Well, not always. In some people, bananas can cause a drop in blood pressure, which sound harmless, but if you're already on blood pressure medication, this may cause dizziness, fainting, or sudden changes in blood flow to the brain. All of these are small events that, when combined with poor circulation or clotting issues, can increase the risk of a nighttime stroke. And here's another common mistake people make. Overripe bananas. The riper the banana, the higher its glycemic index, which means it raises your blood sugar even faster. That's why eating very ripe bananas at night is even more risky. Now, are bananas completely bad? No. For a healthy adult with no blood pressure, kidney, or blood sugar problems, a banana once a day is perfectly fine. In fact, it can help with digestion and energy. But here's the bottom line. If you are at risk of stroke, have heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, or take medications that affect potassium or blood pressure, you should be very careful with bananas. And you should definitely avoid them before bed. If you want to enjoy bananas, do so in the morning or early afternoon. Eat smaller portions. And avoid combining them with other high-sugar fruits or sweets. Now that we've uncovered the hidden risks of bananas, let's move on to the next fruit, one that's small, easy to snack on, and often seen in family fruit bowls. But behind that tiny size is a big threat to your heart and brain. Up next, we talk about grapes. Now let's talk about a fruit that looks harmless, even healthy. They're small, round, juicy, and often eaten by the handful. You'll find them in lunchboxes, fruit salads, desserts, and juices. Yes, we're talking about grapes. Grapes are one of the most commonly consumed fruits around the world. They're praised for their antioxidants, especially something called resveratrol, which is found in the skin of red grapes and is known to support heart health. But there's a side of grapes that rarely gets mentioned. A side that becomes especially important if you have health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or poor circulation. Let's break it down. First, grapes are very high in natural sugar, particularly glucose and fructose. A single cup of grapes can contain over 20 grams of sugar. Now, because grapes are small and bite-sized, people tend to eat a lot of them without realizing it. You might think you're snacking lightly, but in reality, you're flooding your body with sugar. And what does that do? That sugar quickly enters your bloodstream and causes a spike in blood glucose levels. In healthy individuals, the body responds by releasing insulin to bring the sugar back down. But for people with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or type 2 diabetes, that spike can stay in the system for hours. It can lead to inflammation, thickening of the blood, and higher blood pressure, all of which are major risk factors for stroke. Now imagine eating a big handful of grapes at night. You go to sleep, but your body is working overtime to process that sugar. Your insulin is pumping, your blood is thickening, and your heart is under pressure. This is not the restful recovery your body needs at night. But that's not all. Grapes also have a high glycemic load. This means they affect blood sugar more strongly than many other fruits. That quick rise and slow drop in sugar can disturb your sleep, cause nighttime blood pressure spikes, and make your blood vessels work harder than necessary while you're sleeping. And here's where the real danger comes in. People who already have narrow arteries, or those with plaque buildup, can experience reduced blood flow during these nighttime sugar spikes. That means less oxygen is reaching the brain. Combine that with thickened blood from excess sugar, and you have a perfect recipe for a stroke during sleep. Some people also enjoy grapes in the form of grape juice. But here's the catch. Grape juice often has even more sugar than the grapes themselves, and almost none of the fiber that slows sugar absorption. That makes the spike even faster and more dangerous, especially if consumed before bed. And let's not forget about dried grapes, also known as raisins. Raisins are even more concentrated in sugar, because they've lost their water. Just a small handful of raisins can have the same sugar as a sugary dessert. So what does this mean for you? If you are someone who is living with diabetes or prediabetes, dealing with high blood pressure, struggling with weight issues, At risk for stroke or heart disease. Then you need to be extremely cautious with grapes. They're not toxic. They're not evil. But when eaten in large quantities, or at the wrong time, like late at night, they can silently increase your risk of a stroke episode. If you love grapes, enjoy them in small amounts, during the day, and always pair them with something that slows down sugar absorption, like a handful of nuts or a slice of avocado. But if you've been eating grapes at night, especially if you have other health conditions, it's time to stop that habit, before it turns dangerous. Now that we've peeled back the truth about grapes, let's move on to the next fruit. It's tropical, bright yellow, and often blended into juices and smoothies. But if you're on blood thinners or heart medications, this fruit can make things worse. Up next, we'll uncover the real risks of pineapple. Now, let's take a trip to the tropics. A fruit that smells delicious, tastes like sunshine, and looks like a party on a plate. That's right, we're talking about pineapple. Pineapple is often seen as a superfruit. It contains vitamin C, antioxidants, and an enzyme called bromelain, which has anti-inflammatory properties. People use it in fruit salads, smoothies, juices, and desserts. It feels refreshing, especially during hot weather. But here's the truth you need to hear. If you are at risk of stroke, if you're on blood-thinning medications, or if you struggle with blood pressure or circulation, pineapple might not be as innocent as it looks. Let's dive deeper. First, pineapple is extremely high in sugar. 1 cup of fresh pineapple chunks contains around 16 grams of sugar. That's more than a medium apple or even a handful of grapes. And because pineapple tastes so good, most people don't stop at just 1 cup. But the problem is more than just sugar. Pineapple has a high glycemic index, meaning it causes rapid blood sugar spikes. These sudden increases can put a strain on your arteries, making your heart pump harder and increasing the pressure in your brain's blood vessels. And what happens when blood pressure suddenly rises at night, while you're asleep? That's right, stroke risk increases significantly. But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about bromelain, the enzyme found in pineapple. Yes, bromelain has anti-inflammatory benefits, but here's what most people don't realize. Bromelain can act as a natural blood thinner. Now, for someone healthy, that might sound like a benefit. But if you are already taking medications like warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, or even herbal supplements that thin the blood, like garlic or ginkgo, then eating pineapple can intensify the blood thinning effect. That means your blood may not clot properly. If you experience a small bleed in the brain, a common cause of hemorrhagic stroke, your body may not stop it in time. And that can turn a minor issue into a life-threatening emergency. Pineapple also contains acids that can irritate the stomach lining. Eating it on an empty stomach or late at night can cause acid reflux, which disturbs sleep. And when your sleep is disturbed, your heart rate fluctuates, your blood pressure shifts, and your risk of cardiovascular events, including strokes, goes up. Let's look at a real-world example. Someone who eats pineapple late at night, after dinner, while on a blood thinner, might experience a slow internal bleeding episode. They won't feel it immediately. But by the time they wake up, if they wake up, they could already be showing signs of a stroke. Slurred speech, facial drooping, weakness on one side, or confusion. All this, from one fruit that seemed healthy. So what's the lesson here? If you're on heart medications, if you have a history of stroke, or if you deal with blood pressure or bleeding issues, you need to be extremely cautious with pineapple. Avoid it late at night. Avoid it in large amounts. And avoid combining it with other blood-thinning foods like ginger, garlic, or alcohol. If you want to enjoy pineapple, do it during the daytime. Eat small portions. And always monitor how your body reacts. This fruit might be sweet, but the risks are sharp. Now, we've looked at tropical danger. Next, we move on to a fruit that seems harmless, even boring. It's used in pies, snacks, and juices, and most of us grew up eating it without question. But for stroke-prone individuals, this fruit could quietly make things worse. Coming up next, we take a closer look at pears. Let's now turn our attention to a fruit that rarely raises eyebrows. It's soft, sweet, and often seen as gentle on the body. You'll find it in lunchboxes, jams, baby food, and dessert plates. We're talking about pears. Pears are often thought of as a safer, milder fruit. They're less acidic than pineapple, less sugary than grapes, So what's the concern? Well, here's the twist. Pears are not the villain, but they can become a silent threat, especially when consumed under the wrong circumstances. Let's break it down. Pears contain a good amount of natural sugar, especially fructose. Now, fructose doesn't raise blood sugar as rapidly as glucose. But here's the issue. Fructose is processed primarily by the liver. So when you eat a lot of fructose, especially late at night, your liver gets overwhelmed. That triggers fat storage, inflammation, and higher triglyceride levels in your blood. And high triglycerides have been directly linked to an increased risk of stroke and heart disease. But that's not all. Most people eat pears without realizing how dense in fiber they are, especially soluble fiber. Now, fiber is great during the day. But when you consume too much fiber at night, your digestive system continues working long after you fall asleep. That can lead to gastric discomfort, bloating, and disturbed sleep, all of which affect your heart rhythm and blood pressure regulation during rest. Now add to that another hidden danger. Pears contain something called sorbitol, a natural sugar alcohol. Sorbitol isn't harmful in small amounts. But if you're sensitive, or if you eat too many pears at once, it can lead to digestive distress, gas, cramps, or even diarrhea, all while you're trying to rest. Why does this matter for stroke? Because poor sleep and overnight digestive stress increase your body's production of cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol raises blood pressure and constricts your blood vessels. That's a combination that directly affects your brain's blood supply while you're unconscious. And don't forget, many people pair pears with sweeteners, syrups, or processed snacks. This creates a high sugar overload, which increases insulin and blood thickness, another recipe for stroke risk during sleep. Let's summarize the risks of pears. High in fructose, liver strain, triglyceride buildup. High fiber, overnight digestion, sleep disruption. Contains sorbitol, possible bloating or gastric upset. Often eaten with sugar or late at night, elevated nighttime stroke risk. If you already suffer from high cholesterol, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, poor circulation, or a family history of stroke, then pears, especially when eaten in large amounts or late at night, could silently increase your vulnerability. So what's the solution? Enjoy pears in moderation, and ideally during the day. Pair them with protein or fat, like nuts or yogurt, to balance out the sugar impact. And most importantly, avoid eating them before bedtime. They may look innocent, but your blood vessels know the difference. Now that we've revealed the silent risks behind pears, let's move on to a fruit that many people think of as a superfood. It's orange, soft, and buttery, but can actually do damage to your arteries if you're not careful. Coming up next, the avocado. Now, let's talk about a fruit that health influencers absolutely adore. You'll see it on toast, in smoothies, in salads, even in ice cream. It's green, creamy, and loaded with healthy fats. That's right, we're talking about the avocado. Avocados are often praised as one of the world's healthiest foods. They're rich in monounsaturated fats, vitamin E, potassium, and fiber. So you may be asking, how can a fruit so healthy possibly raise stroke risk? The answer lies in how much, when, and who is eating it. Let's break this down. First, avocados are extremely calorie-dense. Just one medium avocado contains around 240 calories and about 23 grams of fat. That's a lot for a fruit. Now, not all fat is bad. But remember, fat slows down digestion. When you eat fatty foods late at night, your body stays in digestive mode while you sleep. This disrupts your natural sleep cycle, which affects your heart rate, blood pressure, and most importantly, blood flow to the brain. You see, stroke is not just caused by clots. Sometimes it's caused by poor circulation, blood vessel constriction, or fat buildup in the arteries. And even good fat, when eaten excessively, especially at night, can thicken your blood and lead to higher clotting risk. Now let's go deeper. Avocados are also high in potassium. Yes, that's usually a good thing. But for someone on blood pressure medications, especially ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, too much potassium can cause hyperkalemia, an electrolyte imbalance that affects the heart's rhythm. And when your heart rhythm is off, your risk of clot formation and stroke rises sharply. Even worse, most people eat avocados with toast, eggs, salt, or even processed meats, which add sodium, cholesterol, and extra fat to the mix. This combo puts even more pressure on your cardiovascular system. Let's look at the full picture. A person has dinner at 8 p.m. Then around 10 p.m., they blend an avocado smoothie, maybe with banana or milk, thinking it's a healthy snack. They go to bed right after. Now, here's what happens inside. Their body enters slow digestion mode. Fat and sugar levels stay elevated throughout the night. Heart rate becomes unstable. Blood pressure fluctuates. Clotting activity rises silently. By 4 or 5 a.m., they're most vulnerable. Why? Because stroke risk is highest during the early morning hours, when blood pressure begins to surge. So even though avocados are filled with nutrients, they can become dangerous if you eat them in large amounts. You combine them with salty or fatty foods. You consume them late at night. Or you're on heart or kidney medication. Here's the takeaway. White heavy check mark yes, eat avocados. White heavy check mark but keep it to half a fruit per serving. White heavy check mark eat them early in the day. White heavy check mark avoid combining with excess salt or sugar. White heavy check mark and if you have kidney issues, high blood pressure, or a history of stroke, talk to your doctor first. Remember, too much of a good thing can still harm you. Now that we've dealt with the avocado, let's head toward another fruit that's often overlooked. It's soft, sticky, and deeply sweet, but it can thicken your blood faster than you think. Coming up next, the date fruit. Now, this next fruit is ancient. It's sacred in many cultures. Used to break fasts. Served at ceremonies. Seen as a healing food in many traditional systems. We're talking about dates, those sticky, chewy, caramel-like nuggets of sweetness. They look harmless. They taste incredible. And they're natural, right? Yes. Dates are natural. But natural doesn't always mean safe, especially if you're trying to protect your heart and brain from stroke. Let's take a closer look at what dates really do inside the body. Pushpin first. Dates are extremely high in natural sugar. Just 3 dates contain over 60 calories and nearly 16 grams of sugar. Now imagine eating 6, 8, 10 dates at once. That's a massive sugar spike. Unlike processed candy, dates come with fiber, yes. But the sugar is still highly concentrated and gets absorbed into your bloodstream fast. That causes a surge in insulin, followed by a crash. When this happens at night, it disrupts your sleep cycles, and your blood pressure may dip and rise unexpectedly. Blood pressure instability during sleep is one of the silent triggers of stroke. Pushpin second, dates thicken the blood. Most people don't realize this, but excess sugar causes the blood to become more viscous. That means it flows slower. Thicker blood increases the risk of clots, especially in older adults or people with existing heart conditions. What's more, many people eat dates with milk, yogurt, or nuts, believing it's a healthy combo. But this just adds fat and calories on top of high sugar. Your body now has to manage sugar and fat at the same time, which puts stress on your insulin, liver, and arteries. Overnight, your body goes into a metabolic overload. Pushpin third, dates can dehydrate you. This might shock you, but despite their soft texture, dates can have a mild diuretic effect, especially when eaten in large amounts. They pull water into your intestines to digest all that fiber and sugar. What does that mean? It means your body loses fluid at night. Your blood thickens even more. And your brain may get less oxygenated blood while you sleep. For stroke risk, that is a dangerous combination. Pushpin who should be cautious? If you fall into any of these categories, dates may be working against you. Diabetics or pre-diabetics. Hypertensive patients. People with high cholesterol. Those on blood thinners or stroke medications. Elderly people with poor hydration habits. Anyone who sleeps poorly or snores heavily at night. Also, consider this. The average stroke occurs between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. If you've eaten a high-sugar snack like dates at 10 or 11 p.m., your blood sugar, insulin, and pressure levels are all still unstable when the brain is most vulnerable. White heavy check mark safer way to eat dates. Limit yourself to 2 to 3 dates per serving. Eat them early in the day, preferably after exercise. Drink plenty of water with them. Never eat them right before bedtime. And don't mix them with fatty or salty foods. Dates are delicious. They're ancient. They're rich in potassium, magnesium, and antioxidants. But remember, anything that spikes your sugar, thickens your blood, or disrupts sleep can increase stroke risk overnight. So enjoy them, but respect them. Now let's move on. Our next fruit is crunchy, refreshing, and found in almost every home across the world. But when juiced or eaten in excess, it could be silently harming your blood vessels. Coming up next, the apple. Now this one may catch you off guard. It's the symbol of health. You've heard the phrase 100 times. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. But what if I told you that same apple, eaten at the wrong time, in the wrong way, could quietly increase your stroke risk overnight? Sounds unbelievable, right? Let's pull back the curtain on this so-called harmless fruit. Red apple, the apple's double-edged sword. Yes, apples are rich in vitamin C, antioxidants, and dietary fiber. They contain a natural compound called quercetin, known to support the heart and reduce inflammation. But here's the twist. Most apples, especially red ones, are loaded with fructose, a natural fruit sugar. One medium apple contains around 19 grams of sugar, more than a chocolate chip cookie. That's just one apple. And what do most people do? They eat apples at night, thinking it's a light snack. Maybe even blend it with other fruits in a smoothie before bed. Warning, why is this a problem? Let's break it down. 1. Late night sugar spike. When you eat an apple at night, the fructose floods your bloodstream while your body is trying to wind down. Your insulin levels rise to handle the sugar. This interferes with your circadian rhythm, your natural sleep-wake cycle. And disturbed sleep leads to higher cortisol, irregular heart rhythms, and, yes, increased stroke risk during the early morning hours. 2. Hidden blood pressure effects. Most people don't know this, but fructose has been shown in studies to increase uric acid levels in the blood. High uric acid can damage blood vessels, increase blood pressure, and trigger vascular inflammation, a key risk factor for stroke. Apples may not seem salty or fatty, but the natural sugar content, when metabolized late at night, turns into stress for your vascular system. 3. Oxidative stress from apple juice. Let's talk about a common mistake. Many people think apple juice is healthy. But most bottled apple juice, even 100% pure, removes the fiber and concentrates the sugar. Drinking just one glass can cause a sugar surge equivalent to eating 2 to 3 apples in one sitting. And without the fiber to slow absorption, that sugar hits your bloodstream fast, triggering insulin, inflammation, and ultimately more stress on the brain's blood vessels. Even if it's homemade juice, the risk remains the same: too much sugar, too quickly. Sleeping face, the worst time to eat an apple. Hands down, the worst time to eat an apple is before bed. Here's what happens. Sugar levels rise. Digestion restarts. Sleep becomes light and restless. Blood pressure fluctuates. Heart rate becomes unstable. Inflammation increases. Stroke risk silently builds. And if you already have hypertension, diabetes, or poor sleep habits, this late-night fruit habit could be pushing you closer to danger without warning. White heavy checkmark, the smarter way to eat apples. If you love apples, and yes, they can be part of a healthy diet, here are the safer tips. Eat whole apples, not juice. Stick to green apples like Granny Smith. They have less sugar. Pair them with nuts to slow digestion, but not at night. Never eat apples right before bed. Best time? Mid-morning or early afternoon. Remember, the sugar in fruits can be just as harmful as table sugar when it's consumed at the wrong time or in large amounts. An apple may keep the doctor away, but a late-night apple might be inviting the stroke risk closer to your door. Let's keep the momentum going. Coming up next is a tropical favorite. It's soft, juicy, and found in homes across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. But this fruit can do serious damage when mixed with high blood pressure or diabetes. Next up, the mango. The mango. The king of tropical fruits. Sweet, juicy, irresistible. For many people, it's a childhood favorite. For others, it's a go-to dessert. Smoothies, ice cream, drinks, you name it. But here's what most people never think about. Mangoes, while delicious and rich in vitamins, can increase your stroke risk overnight, especially if consumed carelessly. Let's break it down. Orange circle, what makes mangoes so risky? 1. Extremely high in fructose. Mangoes are loaded with fructose, the natural fruit sugar that can wreak havoc on your insulin and blood sugar levels. Just one medium mango contains about 45 grams of sugar. That's more than a can of soda. When eaten late in the evening, your body has no time to burn that sugar. Instead, it stores it, or struggles to process it, causing a glucose spike that stays elevated throughout the night. This can lead to higher blood pressure, increased inflammation, interrupted sleep patterns, greater chance of clot formation in blood vessels, all of which raise your stroke risk. 2. Mangoes and insulin resistance. If you already suffer from insulin resistance, a common condition in prediabetics and those with abdominal fat, mangoes are like pouring fuel on fire. The high fructose content gets converted in the liver, adding to fatty deposits and forcing your pancreas to work overtime. That same overload damages the arteries, leading to narrowing and stiffness, two of the biggest precursors to ischemic stroke. 3. Heat and mangoes, a dangerous mix. Now here's something many don't realize. Mangoes are considered a heat fruit in many traditional systems like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. That means they raise internal body temperature, especially when consumed in large quantities or at night. What does that cause? Flushed skin, increased heart rate, dehydration, night sweating, vascular tension. And if your blood is already under pressure, you're adding another layer of risk. 4. Mango plus dairy equals stroke setup? A popular combo is mango mixed with milk, yogurt, or ice cream. But combining a high-sugar fruit like mango with high-fat dairy creates a digestion nightmare. It slows down your metabolism, spikes triglyceride levels, and keeps blood sugar high for hours. That's a recipe for poor sleep, and a stroke-friendly environment inside your arteries. Sleeping face while eating mango at night is especially dangerous. Here's what happens when you snack on mango late at night. Your blood sugar rises. Your body produces excess insulin. You experience internal heat buildup. Your sleep becomes restless. Your heart rate remains elevated. And your blood thickens due to dehydration and inflammation. All of this can culminate in a higher likelihood of stroke between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., when your body is most vulnerable. White heavy check mark how to eat mango without raising stroke risk. If you love mango, and let's be honest, who doesn't, there are safer ways to enjoy it. Eat small portions. Half a mango is often enough. Only consume mangoes earlier in the day. Avoid mixing mango with dairy. Drink lots of water alongside it. Never eat it before sleep or after dinner. Also, if you're diabetic, hypertensive, or on stroke medications, limit mangoes to once or twice a week, not daily. Mango may be the fruit of the gods, but if abused, it can quietly lead you closer to a stroke than you think. Up next, a fruit you probably never expected on this list. It's green. It's refreshing. And people drink its juice thinking it flushes the body. But this fruit can secretly lead to electrolyte imbalance, heart rhythm problems, and yes, stroke. Coming up next, the cucumber. Cucumber? Yes, you heard that right. This humble, crunchy green fruit is praised as one of the healthiest snacks on earth. It's low in calories, high in water, and often called a detox food. But here's the reality. Cucumber can raise your stroke risk if misused, especially when consumed in large amounts or at night. It sounds almost contradictory, but let's unpack the science behind this. Cucumber first. Is cucumber really a fruit? Yes, cucumber is technically a fruit, not a vegetable. It comes from the flowering part of the plant and contains seeds, just like tomatoes and pumpkins. So while you may think of it as a salad add-on, cucumbers sit right on this list for a reason. Warning, where the danger lies. 1. High water, low electrolyte imbalance. Cucumbers are about 96% water, which sounds healthy. But too much water, especially before sleep, can dilute your body's electrolyte balance. Your body needs proper levels of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium to maintain stable heart rhythms and blood pressure. When you consume a large bowl of cucumber at night, say as a light dinner, you may be flushing out important electrolytes, causing low sodium levels, hyponatremia, interrupting heart signals, leading to irregular heartbeat, muscle cramps, and even blood vessel spasms. These are hidden contributors to stroke in older adults. 2. Nighttime overhydration. Cucumber is a natural diuretic. That means it makes you urinate more, especially if eaten at night. This leads to interrupted sleep due to frequent urination, dehydration in the early morning hours, concentrated blood from fluid loss, and thicker blood means higher clot risk. Clots in narrow vessels of the brain equals potential ischemic stroke. 3. Oxalates in the skin. Did you know cucumber contains oxalates, especially in its skin? Oxalates are natural compounds that, in excess, can contribute to kidney stones and calcium imbalance. Poor calcium balance affects blood clotting, heart function, and muscle contraction, all crucial in preventing strokes. Eating too many cucumbers, especially unpeeled ones, can build up oxalates over time, especially if you already have a sensitive kidney or gut condition. 4. Cucumber and cold-induced vasoconstriction. Cucumber has a cooling effect on the body. But this very cooling property can be dangerous if you eat cucumbers with cold water, you consume them at night in air-conditioned rooms, or your body temperature is already low. This causes vasoconstriction, a narrowing of blood vessels, especially in cold environments. And narrowed vessels plus sluggish nighttime circulation equals a ticking time bomb for stroke-prone individuals. Sleeping face while eating cucumber at night can be harmful. Here's a typical scenario. You want something light before bed. You slice a cucumber, maybe drizzle a little lime or salt on it. You feel healthy, clean, refreshed. But behind the scenes, your kidneys overwork to flush water. Your electrolyte balance gets disrupted. You wake up multiple times to pee. Your blood thickens in the early morning. And your heart strains to stabilize its rhythm. That's the silent impact. It doesn't feel like a stroke is coming, but that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. White heavy checkmark how to eat cucumber safely. To enjoy cucumber without risking your health. Eat it earlier in the day, not at night. Don't overconsume, one small cucumber is enough. Peel it to reduce oxalate intake. Pair with a pinch of sea salt to balance electrolytes. Avoid eating it straight from the fridge. Never drink cold water immediately after eating it. And if you have kidney issues, low blood pressure, or a tendency toward cramps, talk to your doctor about your cucumber intake. Cucumber may look innocent, but in the wrong setting, at the wrong time, it may just become a stroke trigger you never expected. And there you have it. 10 everyday fruits that may seem harmless, but when eaten the wrong way, especially at night, can silently increase your stroke risk. Now that you know better, eat smarter. Your brain, your heart, and your future will thank you. If you found this helpful, backhand index pointing right, like, share, and subscribe to Hypnotherapy. For more eye-opening health truths. Stay safe, stay informed, and always take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live.